Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
You know, I don't really know how to begin this one. And I've got a guest here today, and I've been talking to her before I hit record. And normally I have kind of a non sequitur or something to kind of talk about. And I'll just give you the backstory as to how we met. I was introduced to her by just another networking connection, and he said the two of us should meet, and we did. And it was a great conversation. And, you know, I meet lots of coaches, and so, okay, I'm talking to another coach. And then she kind of floated out there, you know, that she works with people with respect to relationships and communication coaching. And her expertise was nonviolent effective communication through observation over evaluation and self-awareness and feelings and accountability, and expressing needs. And I'm just like, okay, I need to get you on my podcast, because I need to have people on who study these things, who think about these things. I'm so fascinated by it because we think of networking as this kind of transactional. I'm going to go to an event and I'm going to just do this and get enough cards out and collect enough cards back and follow up and go through this very sequential sort of thing, and business is going to magically come to us. And in the end, it's all about relationships. So at any rate, with that less than spectacular buildup, I have Joni Woods on with me today. Joni, Joni.
Yes.
Thanks for being with me. I feel like I've let you down, like I have to have something more than that.
It's fine. No, it's perfect.
Well, I guess let's start out with just kind of your story as to how you got into this space. And, you know, it's just...
Yeah. So I was a youth and young adult pastor for about almost 20 years. And so I've spent a lot of time working with families and relationships. And after my divorce and, you know, subsequent years later, I was like, I still want to help people. I still love seeing people fulfilled and whole and in all of their relationships, in their families, in their intimate relationships, in their co-working relationships, because they're just so interconnected. And I was seeing just people didn't know how to communicate. They felt the need to hold back what it was that they wanted to say.
Mhm.
And as a result, it just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
You know, the relationship just kept breaking down because instead of just opening that can of worms and just putting everything on the table and saying, okay, let's start piecing this together and make a beautiful picture out of our problems, they just kept like messing it all up. And it was like,
Yeah.
it. And they would do it in a way that, because you try to like communicate to bring someone onto your side of the table, like, hey, you know, come join me, come understand, I need you to understand. But at the same time, they give pieces of themselves away doing that. They stop talking about what it is that they need. They stop talking about what it is that they're feeling at that moment. And then suddenly you're not having an authentic connection and your relationship breaks down because you can tell when someone's not being fully authentic. You can tell when someone's not being fully vulnerable or truthful in what it is that they're feeling. And then it builds walls as opposed to connection. So
Yeah.
that's me.
No. Yeah. Well, it's, you know, to me, it's fascinating, because relationships are everywhere. You know,
Mhm.
people tell me, well, I'm not good at networking, and all networking is relationships. And we're all, well, I couldn't say we're all good at, but we all have them.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's got a mom, everyone's got a dad, you know, some have spouses or significant others or kids or just different things. And, people in our lives, bosses, and goes on and on and on. And we all have these relationships, and that's really the source of all our frustrations um, and really all of our achievements, if you stop and think about it. Um, I don't bring somebody onto my show and I dig around a little bit. So I'm not like snooping on you or anything like that. But I was on your website.
Okay.
So there you go. Journeylifecoaching.life. And there was an article here. The stories we tell ourselves.
Yes.
And that really kind of made me think about just some personal stuff. Not necessarily me, but I have other family members where I'm trying to it's it's my immediate family, trying to bring people together, and they won't talk.
Mm.
They're assuming something from the other side,
Mhm.
and I can't, and I've literally used that. You're telling yourself a story about this,
Yeah.
and I think that happens a lot. And all of a sudden we feel like we're communicating. Now, I shouldn't say that. Well, you know what? I can't say that because I've been in those shoes where I'm telling myself a story. Okay, that this person is, um, you know, this person is saying this to me because of this.
Yep.
Now they haven't told me that, but I'm assuming that, or maybe I guess that's the best word to put it. I'm assuming it, without
Yeah.
getting clarification, and because of that, I'm reacting in a different way,
Hmm.
um, and it's generally wrong. And then it just sends things into more of a tailspin, if you will. So
Yeah, it ends up being it's a self prophetic self thing that you just bring into your space. I have in a um corporate sense or business sense, I had a coworker who came in and he was super upset because he thought for sure that one of the customers he was working with was there to evaluate and judge him
mm,
and all that kind of stuff. And I had to look at him and say, that is not what is happening. Literally, the man came in with his wife and his daughter to just eat breakfast. Like he's not here, and he's building this story in his head that it's a power play. He's going to try and fire him. And I was like, that's not what's happening. Literally, the
yeah,
man just wants to eat breakfast. But then I also, in my personal life, have, come across, I'm technologically illiterate, literally. Like I will do stuff and I'm like, where did that go? And I was having this continual problem with a friend of mine, and it was just suddenly messages disappeared, things weren't getting delivered. I thought I was blocked. Like it was just this thing. And I had to get to a place where I was like, okay, I know his character. I know my friend, and I believe that he wouldn't do that to me. So I have to stop the story in my head. It was really hard because I'm a big emotion person. Clearly, if I'm talking about communication and relationships, I feel really big about
right,
everything. So I had to express my emotions, but at the same time, keep in mind, I know his character. I know who he is as a person, and he wouldn't do that to me. So we have to come together and figure out what happened. And I had to be willing to be like, okay, well, it was my fault. Like
right,
I've messed up my technology enough to the point where things weren't going where they needed to go. I'd open up my laptop and it was like, this message never sent. And I'm like, oh, so I've been
yeah,
sitting on it for 12 hours thinking this person hates me. And it's literally sitting in my outbox. Like it's these stories we tell ourselves. And I don't know why we do it. I think it's us trying to get ahead of the problem as opposed to just communicating, hey, is everything okay? Are we good? Like, can I
yeah,
do anything for you? Are you struggling? Because I have to take myself out of my situation and go, what's going on over there? How can I help you? Because if I value your friendship, if I value your co-working space, if I value you as a boss, and I'm feeling this, then I need to pause me and go, are you okay? Can I help you? Can I do anything for you? And I think we don't do that because we've told ourselves the story. And that's where I think communication breaks down and relationships struggle because of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the reason we tell ourselves stories is it's I don't want to say it's a survival mechanism, but it's we as humans, we're prone to we have survived this long on this planet, and it doesn't seem so threatening anymore, because we have Walmarts in every corner or Starbucks in every corner and Walmarts in every county. Um, but there was a time where you had to worry at every turn, and so we are conditioned to worry at every turn, and we seldom tell ourselves a story that, oh, this is going to be great. They're not responding to me because they're planning a surprise party. For me,
Yeah.
it's my birthday. That doesn't happen. It's okay. They're not responding for whatever reason. Um,
And I think there's just so many high triggers. I mean, I get that too. Like sometimes I'm super stressed and I'm not fully aware of what it is that I'm feeling, and so it can easily be mistaken for in someone else's opinion. And I have to come back to the table and say, "No, it was fine. It was me. I was triggered. There, you're good. We're good." And create that safe space because we're communicating and being vulnerable. I think there's also that whole cancel culture that's going on where suddenly someone's like, you're out, and they do everything they can to get rid of people. And that's disheartening for me. I struggle with that.
mm,
I think if you have a conflict with someone, if if you have a conflict with someone and decide, okay, they are no longer someone I'm going to invite to my table, that's fine. That is your right. That is within your space, but don't make it so they can't eat at any table. That's
yeah.
terrible. That's not your right anymore. And I think that whole cancel culture is so destructive. And I think it's going away now. The height of social media and everything that was happening really flamed or made that just so terrible. But I think people are starting to recognize I need to get both sides of this story. I need to really kind of understand context and decide whether or not you're telling the truth or they're telling the truth, or there's just a truth in the middle
Yeah.
that's not being recognized. And for me, that's really important. That's that whole triangulation thing that I talk about when I do my workshops is don't take up someone else's cause just because you can. Like, ask the questions, talk that person off the ledge, let them have their conflict, let them work it out with their person, and then give them back their peace.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say you triggered me. No, you triggered lots of thoughts. You triggered lots of thoughts with the whole cancel culture and just how we're so quick to judge, and you can't, politics. Politics went from, well, a lot of topics went from this just, hey, we can have a nice conversation around this, to, geez, I don't even want to talk about it. I have
Yeah.
no idea. I have no idea where this is going to go, and it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it leaks over into other parts of our relationships as well, because I don't know, you just trying to think of a good example, but it's all connected, right? I mean, I don't know, it's crazy. Everything's eventually we'll pull out of it, and I think that I think it's kind of going away because people are realizing that, okay, you know it's kind of like when somebody tells a lie and you realize that, okay, they tell lies, then you're really, okay, you're saying something, your lips are moving, it's probably not true, and that's kind of where it's where we've gotten to, where just a lot of things are overly sensationalized, and we realize that, yeah, it's not, it's not, the truth is in the middle somewhere. So
And exactly.
um well, we've talked about a lot of problems. I mean, let's just, how do we get ourselves out of these things? And I'm a big fan of, I'm 100% responsible for me. Um, you know, I think you probably agree because, well, the reality is that's true, right? I can't, you know,
Right.
I can't wait for somebody to call me and apologize. I can't, I have to, it'll never happen. So,
Well, I am a big fan of asking a lot of questions. When I had the conflict with my friend, I literally wrote out like 100 questions. Like, are you feeling this? Are you thinking this? Are you doing this? Because one of the things that I talk about in my workshops and my classes and with people is we all see the world differently. We have various lenses. It depends on how you're raised. It depends on, your
yeah,
the social, economic, your parenting, the conflicts you went through, trauma, any trauma that you're wearing, even into adulthood. Like some of those things, we all put on various lenses or they're chips on your shoulder. Like one of these things, they influence how you see the world around you. And so for me, I know that I have so many lenses that I could throw on, but the biggest one is always an insecurity. Like I have for someone who tries to be as extroverted as possible, I'm actually a natural introvert. And so I automatically go to an insecurity of, oh, do they really like me? Like,
mm,
did I make a good impression? Like, how is this going? And so I have to recognize that I need to take those lenses off and then I need to ask questions like, what are you seeing? How are you seeing the world? What kind of things do you think about? Because some people come in a lot, more cavalier or with more strength and ability to communicate and recognize their feelings. And so what I would deem as insecurities for myself, they're like, oh no, it's fine. It's not a big deal at all. So we have to recognize the lenses that we wear, take them off, and then ask questions. So then when we start doing that, then we can be, okay, well, there's this one person kind of when they look at them, everyone's like, oh well, she's just so arrogant and she's just so like thinks she knows everything. And I want to stop them and say, okay, you are assigning something to her. Why don't you look inside and say, what is it that's triggering me to think that she's like that? What
yeah,
does that mean that I don't feel secure enough in who I am as a businesswoman or a networker or, a mother or anything like that? What is it that's triggering me that would allow me to start making comments about someone else? That I think is the start of observation over evaluation. You start observing, oh, this situation is kind of making me upset. Why is that? What's going on in here? What's going on in here that I need to work on? And then I'm able to, okay, this is where I feel everything. I'm feeling a little bit triggered. I'm feeling a little bit insecure. I'm feeling like I need, I want to have a relationship with you, but I don't know how to do it because I feel insecure. And then you start being vulnerable where you say that stuff to someone and be like, so you have some great traits. They're kind of things that I look up to that I want to be a part of my life. Can you teach me? Can you help me grow? And suddenly you have a relationship. Suddenly you have a connection. And that's what I think is how we build and push past what we're feeling.
yeah.
So I'm a big hands person.
That's okay. An introvert with hands.
What do you do?
Yeah. No, as you talk, I think, and I've noticed this about myself when I interview people as they share things. I think about people in my life and the challenges I have, and okay, what do how am I approaching this the right way? And it's hard. Relationships are hard, and they, uh, I mean, you can't even assign to somebody the same personality day to day. Not that they're wildly different, but it's like, they didn't get a good night's sleep, or they're fighting with their kids or their spouse or whatever it is. And that's going to trigger them in a whole different way, which triggers you, which I don't know. If someone once told me that, he was kind of a marriage counselor. He says, when when you go into a marriage, you go into a marriage with four relationships. Each side has four relationships. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your mom, your relationship with your dad, and your parents' relationship with each other. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
But he went on to explain, it's like, you know what? I mean, if your parents fought all the time, then that's the norm you kind of see.
Yep.
Whereas if you have a relationship where the parents, were able to have, healthy disagreement, healthy conversation, and then that's what you bring. And it's all very, very challenging. So I don't know. You
It
you
is.
got you have quite a job for you. All right, let's shift gears here, and I want to I want to I want you to talk about your business. I want you to talk about, you've mentioned workshops, the types
Yes.
of things, you do. Don't hold back. This is your time. Um,
Well, essentially my end goal is to do 6 to 9 months at a company, like 1 day a week or a couple days a week where I'm there and I'm teaching communication skills. We're talking about what nonviolent or what violent communication looks like. That's gaslighting, that's record keeping, that's triangulation, that's passive
mm,
aggressive. All of those negative behaviors that builds walls and you're not able to function and you're suffering from pain points. So I want to be able to do workshops and then talk about that, talk about toxic positivity. That is one of my biggest pet peeves is this whole idea. And unfortunately, it's become a culture trend in the workplace where everyone's just so happy and you're
yeah,
all good. So we're going to push down our negative feelings because suddenly you're the negative energy in the room. No, 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 no. There has to be a difference between someone who comes in with an actual issue versus someone who is, maybe they're clinically depressed and they need to go to therapy, like the two different things. So toxic positivity drives me crazy. And then work with the staff or whoever and literally break down who they are as individuals. Because I'm not a leadership coach. I'm not going to teach you leadership skills, but what I am going to teach you is how to recognize your thought processes and why they are different from someone else because you are completely different. Everyone is so different and that's okay. But we have to learn how to work together. Some person is going to be a rule follower and some person is going to be a workaholic. Some person is going to, but these are their natural tendencies. So we got to give grace, one, for that to happen. And then two, learn how to work in a co-working space that respects both. If someone needs to follow the rules, then when you're speaking with them, you want to say, these are the ways that we are going to adjust and we're going to follow the rules because I respect who you are as a person. I'm not asking you to change and be a rule bender or breaker with me. I just want you to understand that these are the ways that we're going to do it. And then for someone that says, I have boundaries set on my time and I'm not going to be a workaholic. So the workaholic has to come in and be like, okay, so how do we work together? Like, how do we do this in a way that builds productivity and helps their clients? People don't recognize that they're different personalities. The overachiever is like, why aren't you working harder? And the boundaries person is
yeah,
like, why don't you calm down? Like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
this sense of, and then this conflict. So to do all of those personality assessments and then really kind of look at the big picture, the big puzzle, and this is where this person sits on the bus or on the boat or the train or however vehicle
Right.
you want to use. This is where they are, and this is how you'll move forward. And then start the nonviolent communication part where we observe over evaluation. And then the big part of that is you can't assign behaviors. Like I can't look at you and say, well, you did this to me. That's assigning a behavior. Rather, what we want to do is we want to get in touch with how we feel about it. And we say the vulnerable things like, I felt insecure. Well, shit. That's accountability. Sorry. That's accountability
That's okay.
to me.
Yeah,
Suddenly it's not that you did something, but I felt something. I felt insecure. I felt fear. I felt angry. I felt hurt. Those are the feelings. You begin to feel your feelings, and then you're able to regulate them. You're able to start saying, okay, I really don't need to feel insecure in this situation. She's built one way, he's built one way. This is how we're going to work together.
Yep.
And I can learn and grow with them as they're building this business. So doing that, and then expressing your wants, like, okay, I want to be stronger in this area. Can you help me? This is what I need to grow. Can you help me? This is what I need in my business, or I struggle in this area. Can you help me? Because I see that you're successful in it. And instead of feeling insecure or fearful of their job or their position. And so working through all of those so that there's actual communication happening and actual relationships being built in the team. That's what I want to do.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's larger companies. Yeah.
It could be a small group of 10, or it
Okay.
can be the biggest company ever.
Okay. Do you work with people one-on-one?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
It is, I have a couple of companies that are they have a bucket of hours where I come in and I help them. And then then I work with a company and I just do workshops. I work with a company and I just literally work with their vice president. It's just one person. So it's everybody, whatever they need.
Okay. All right. You're like a Swiss Army knife. Best way to get a hold of you? Through your website, Journeylifecoaching.life?
Website or LinkedIn right now. I'm definitely working the LinkedIn stuff.
Okay. Well, there's lots of people there. I'm told. Yeah. No, I'm on there. That's going to be around. It's not just a fad. No, that's a good place to be. Well, I'll get your website in the show notes. So, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. You endured my less than spectacular startup, and you did great.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.